Before we get into this episode, I just want to tell you guys that this episode is brought to you by Africa's premium online poker and sports betting platform, pokerbet.co.za. So make sure to subscribe down below. You can follow the link below, create an account, and join in on the fun. Have a kick-ass time.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Versus Fight Night 7 breakdown. Saaiman Stephens joined by MSP Cameron and Simon. We're going to show you what an incredible card we've got coming your way for Versus Fight Night 7. We'll start with some of the featured prelims bout. It's Hanyuf Dilyan against Ignatius Nkomo, a very exciting fight. Again, it goes to the depth of talent we've got versus Cameron, that a lot of these fights on the prelims really should be on the main card.
Yeah.
I remember Ignatius Nkomo when he fought Grant Farrow, who, by the way, is also on the main card, fighting Kanyo McClam for the title in our co-main event at VFN 7. And Ignatius was able to sweep Grant Farrow from top mount in the second round. And Grant is the real deal on the ground. How did this fight come together? Because it's a cracker on the prelims.
Yeah, definitely. I think, both these guys were super game to just have another scrap before the end of the year. And, versus happening on the 18th of November, it's the perfect way to almost close off a year, hopefully with another win for either of them. So it's a great scrap. These guys have fought multiple times for versus, and we also like that. We like that we get these guys that are always ready to, not only always ready, but they're willing to fight for us. And we have 15 fights, 2 title fights. And with that being said, sometimes it happens that if we have these fights, we need to push you guys down. And they are headlining. Hanyuf has been there since Versus Fight Night 1. He's fought at multiple Versus events. And he's also a crowd favorite. He fought for Valhalla. I'm pretty sure he's between Valhalla and Dwayne Meredith's gym, Mayhem MMA. So it's great to have these guys headline those prelims. And it's going to be a good scrap. Both these guys are very well-rounded. I think Nkomo is coming in with a lot of confidence, especially after his previous fights, and knowing not only what he got to land on the feet, but also gained a lot of confidence in the grappling exchanges. And fighting a guy in Hanyuf with the grappling pedigree of Valhalla, it has to be reassuring as well. So it's gonna be it's gonna come down. I do predict that even going the distance, I think it's gonna be a good scrap.
I think there'll be a lot of clinching.
Yeah.
You saw that in Ignatius's last fight as well.
Yeah.
And his clinch work is very, very good.
Yeah.
In terms of a stand-up, Hanyuf Dilyan is a very tricky customer.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then when we move over into the main card, we have heavyweights that actually not a lot of people know about, but it's a thing of like, we need to start building these guys because we have a heavyweight champion looking for a scrap for next year. And, we would like to have him defend his title
Muffin
early
Man?
on. Yes, sir. So we need to start having more heavyweight fights.
That
and-
sound you hear is the
Yeah.
whole world saying, what? No fighting Neil Koch in November?
Yeah.
Like, the disappointment is... But
Yeah.
trust me, folks, this card is really amazing.
Yeah.
But no Neil Koch on the card
Yeah,
in Pretoria. What are you doing?
Neil Koch needs he's in bulking season at the moment. So
Is that what we call it?
He needs December to bulk up.
Fair enough.
But we have Cameron Bowles coming from A-Star's team, Alusani's gym with Niku Mathata, great kickboxers, great stand-up athletes. And it was really hard to find an opponent, so it was literally a question of like who's willing to take the fight. And on a few weeks notice we got that, so
Sure.
they're opening up the main card, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, to go back to the prelims, because it is a stacked main card.
Yeah.
What, in terms of prelims, really stand out for you? We talked about that, the featured prelim bout, but just talk us through some of the new guys coming in for the prelims, because it really is a fantastic platform for these guys coming into Versus.
Yeah, definitely. I do think what stands out a lot is, I think, the variety of guys we have competing for us, and you get to see that out of the variety of gyms. We have guys from A-Star's team, we have guys from Tribal, multiple guys from Tribal, from Mayhem, we have guys flying in from Cape Town, we have guys from East London, also PE. So it's great to see that these guys are willing to travel up to Pretoria. And Versus is currently doing the events here, but for 2024, the we're gonna look to explore further talent, further in South African region. So it's a great type of motivation for these guys
Yeah,
to get to travel, because I think traveling is a massive part of what we do as martial artists. And if you want to travel the world and fight, you need to first travel the country a little bit. So that's a massive thing. And you get to see guys that are one or two wins away from really being in the top five of what we consider our rankings
sure.
and being in contention to fight for a title. So it's not too far out of reach for most of these guys.
Well, I want to take it closer to home because, like you said, we've got guys flying in from Cape Town, from Durban,
Mm,
from Port Elizabeth,
yeah.
driving up from Joburg, from the Free State. There's
Yeah.
guys from all over the country coming
Yeah.
in, establishing versus MMA as the biggest amateur promotion, if not in sub-Saharan Africa, then the entire continent. But I want to take it closer to home. And if you can take off that CIT cap, put the versus cap
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I want to know about Tyron Lamprecht. He's never won or lost by submission. That fight over Liam Schultz, I think, was probably the biggest scalp in his amateur career. Yeah, he's taking on Hlompo Pomodi here. I
Yeah.
don't know much about Hlompo,
Yeah.
but I want to know a bit more about Tyron from a grappling point of view, because I know he can get it done with the fists.
Definitely. I do think the first thing that comes to mind just watching Tyron as a person watching from outside is just his well-roundedness. And I've said that multiple times. He is super well-rounded. His wrestling defense is amazing. You got to see that in the Liam Schultz fight. His dynamic grappling, his scrambling on the ground is absolutely insane.
Mm.
And now this is what makes the fight interesting as well, because now he's fighting another tribal guy that is also very unpredictable, super explosive, super aggressive, and you can almost see him neutralizing all those threats. And this is what makes this fight amazing, because I think Tyron has fought the who's who in he's never had an easy
Yeah.
fight. And also Coach Stefan De La Rey doesn't want easy fights for him. So he's had a very tough amateur journey. He's fought some of the best guys, I would say, in Africa. And if they compete on the world stage, I think they will give most guys a run for his money. So I think Tyron is going to want to come out here super technical, super dialed in. In his previous fight with Brandon Santos, it looked like something was wrong. Like he wasn't completely switched on. He wasn't there. And Brandon Santos' defeat of Tyron Landbrach is the fight that got him the title shot.
Right.
So it's one of those things. Can you look to improve on your past performances? I do think he can do that. And, this is a great opponent for him.
Yeah, we know the tribal MMA guys. Shout out to Rashad Essop. They are guys really starting to come through. That fight team's growing and growing in Vanderbilt Park with tribal MMA. So we know that Hlompo is going to come in very well prepared with a very strong game plan. It's going to be a tough fight for Tyron, but it's the perfect get back fight for him.
Yeah, definitely. And then the flip of the coin, Pomodi has everything to prove in this fight, because I think a lot of people rate Tyron quite highly. So a win over him can really shoot you up into those amateur rankings and really make a statement. So that's going to be a great fight. And then another fight, we talk about Brandon Santos. We'll get to him in a minute, but Mighty Warriors is such a good gym, and Coach Stefan, he's been doing absolutely amazing work with these guys. And one of his passion projects, the guys he has molded, Josiah Obasi. And this is a guy that is willing to fight at light heavyweights or heavyweight. They actually just said they don't care. Like, we just want to fight. And having Zane Tannis also just pick up his hand, the man from Poch, because we also forgot to mention that Poch is coming to Pretoria.
Yeah, Rue van der Beer trains Zane Tannis at Coalition Grappling Academy.
And what makes this fight also amazing, is like they're 1-1. This is the trilogy fight. They are 1-1 in their
Josiah
competition.
won the first by decision.
Yeah.
And then Josiah won the second. I think, what was
Zane,
it? Zane won by triangle.
Yeah. So this is a great fight because we get to do this trilogy. And also this will probably put these guys in title contention for next year. So the winner of this will be fighting for a title.
Because Josiah fought at versus Fight Night 6 against Johan Fahl.
Yes.
And I think Josiah probably took that second round.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree. He lost by TK in the third.
Yeah,
TKO in the third. The ground and pound by
yeah,
Johan, which is too much. Good referee stoppage, no problem. But Josiah in that fight showed really good scramble, some nice sweeps, and good reversal. Looked a real deal on the feet. I was
yeah.
hugely impressed with him.
Yeah, definitely. I think, he has a old school Kyokushin background. Well, that's what it looks like to
Right.
me.
What, this from the
And
stance or from his striking or both?
the close range of his striking, I
Yeah.
would say, and just his clinch work.
Yeah.
It looks like they work that a lot. And this is a classic striker versus
Yes,
grappler
it
matchup.
is. Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see who implements the game plan the best. And this is a great fight. And like I said, the winner of this will be fighting for a title. So there's a lot on the line. It's their trilogy fight, so there's already a lot on the line for them.
Yes.
But we'll do a title fight for next year for the winner of that.
Great. Because
Yeah.
it is actually the second trilogy fight we've got on this main card. We'll
Yeah.
come to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Zain Tanous won the light heavyweight national champs last
Yes.
year in Boxburg. And he won in the semi-finals with an armbar 50 seconds into the first round. So whilst we are saying it's a grappling versus striking classic matchup,
Yeah.
Tanous can get it down to the ground so darn quickly. He's so dangerous.
Yeah.
His grappling is a thing of beauty. I saw him, he took silver at IMAF last year.
Yeah.
And I saw even then his stand-up's pretty handy too.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think that speaks volumes of the development of MMA and Poch as well. And you can see the growing popularity as well. That's also a area that we are looking to branch out and do an event at for next year. So
Oh wow,
it's
fantastic.
it's gonna be fun to really not only travel with these athletes and give them that exposure, but also expose the sport of amateur MMA specifically, because I think a lot of people when they watch it, they think it's too far from home. Like, we're doing events and we're going to be doing events regularly, and you can come watch it live. So that's
And
a
you
plan.
think Ruvan De Beer would be welcoming of you of all people in Poch?
Yeah, definitely. I
Nice.
actually chat to him quite often,
That fight was a long time
and
ago.
yeah,
That's-
but it's I've said, like, if I ever go to Poch, I've never had the reason to, but
Right.
if I go to Poch, that we'll definitely train together,
Yeah.
and you get to see them doing fun and interesting things in town as well. So it's going to be a cool
No,
place.
Ruvan's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
And Poch is a great place. And
Definitely.
he's very proud of it. And if
Yeah.
you do an event in Poch, man, that'll be stunning. That'd be beautiful.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Well, let's move on. Abel Corsa beat Bonge Kosi Dlamini in our very first event by KO.
Yeah,
That was quite some time ago as well.
yeah.
And we haven't seen him since Versus Fight Night 1. Why?
Again, now I'm taking off my CIT hat, putting a matchmaker hat on for Versus. I've honestly this is the athlete I've been struggling to get matchups for by far the most.
Why?
And
Just no one wants a piece of him.
it's weird because you would say Abel Corsa, and then people would ask, is it the guy that knocked out that other guy at Versus One? It's like, yes, it's him. He's 5-2. His record doesn't speak about, like, his record and his performance don't make sense to coaches.
Yep.
So I do think
Yep.
people are like, no, you guys are trying to set us up. So it's just like, he doesn't get opportunities to fight. And it's really hard. And between his working situations, he moved teams from CIT. He now lives closer to A-Team Stars. So
Right.
he's with
Okay.
Alusani's gym, and they produce so many great athletes. Willy von Rooyen that has
Yeah.
fought for us. Dana van Wyk that's fighting in the UFC. She's also fought for Versus. So it's great that he now has a home where he can also build his life around his work and his training. And finally, we got an opponent for him.
Viwe Umpatiswa.
And didn't even flinch, and that's great. Coming from Rico Hudson from Reps MMA,
Yeah.
also as I understand, working with Coach Mike from PFA as well, and they didn't bat an eye. They were like, "Yeah, let's take the fights," and that's what we want to see. As a matchmaker, it makes it much easier when guys do that.
Iviwe's one tough dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a brown belt on kickboxing.
Yeah.
He's competed a lot in boxing and K1.
Yeah,
But as we know, in fact, he took bronze at nationals and he was going to represent the South African team this year in Angola.
yeah,
And we know what happened with that. So he must have been hugely disappointed. But that stunning kickboxing and boxing background, but coming out of Reps,
yeah,
and obviously we're working with Mnemone at PFA, Any guy coming out of Rico Hatting's fight team
Yeah.
is going to be legit on the ground, and yet he has very dynamic striking. So it's almost like a London bus for Albuquerque, where he's waiting for opponent for so long,
Yeah.
and then he gets a quality opponent.
Well, that's the good question is like how good can you like not competing for 2 years, how good can you get in 2 years? And that's also that's gonna come down to training, to conditioning. I do think Iviwe has been very active. I think he has gotten some opportunities to compete, especially coming from Cape Town. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of development going on there as well, grassroots events and stuff like that. So it's going to be great. But what I love about this fight, and I think this is okay. We'll get to our predictions for fight of the night. But both
Yeah,
these
good luck with
guys,
that. Yeah, it's a tough one.
yeah, both these guys, they didn't ask too many questions. It wasn't a
Oh,
thing of
really?
like, where's this guy from? What's his record? What's his past experience? It's just like, yeah, sure, let's fight. And I
That's what you
like
want.
that.
That's what
That's
you
sick.
want.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, do we have similar MMA records? That's cool with me. Let's go. So yeah,
Um, let's move to the first title fight.
yeah.
I mean, and the question a lot of people are asking is Kenya McClam against Grant Farrow. Why is that not headlining versus Fight Night 7?
Yeah, definitely. I think under most circumstances, we'll give the weight the advantage. So if it's lightweight, lightweight is heavier than bantamweight, we'll have the lightweights headline. And in this case, we have two guys that we are very for. One from Durban, one from PE,
Yeah.
traveling up to fight for a title, and that's great because now we get to explore all the talent we have in South Africa. But having such a massive Pretoria fan base, these guys are great fighters. They are pretty good in their marketing, but they are not selling pay-per-views yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need to have two Pretoria or at least two regional guys headlining a
Can't have two
card.
guys from the East Coast.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
hard to sell. So
makes sense.
so having these guys, but again, it's just we got to see a lot of positives in the attitudes of these athletes. They were like they don't even care. Like if they were fighting first, it would have been fine. They don't care of the order in which they fight. They just want to come here and fight for that title. And it's so cool to see two very game guys going for the lightweight title.
The lightweight title, again, and now reference what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
This is our second trilogy fight because both Kenya McClam
Yeah.
and Grant Farrow have fought before. It's how they've grown since that I think is going to be key in this fight. I don't think Kenya McClam realizes actually how good he is.
That is something I actually told his coach,
Chris Bright.
Chris Bright. I told him that there is a scary amount of talent in that man, and I think it came down to his previous fight was against Hanif Delian, that's also fighting on the
Right,
card.
yes.
And but you got to see
It's a good fight.
very superior technique, super composure, and a level of professionalism that you don't see a lot in amateur athletes. And it's not even the fight itself; it's like how he carried himself around everything, the
Yeah.
walkouts, how the weight cuts, how he was in excellent conditioning, in great shape. His mental aspect, I think, coming from a gym like Chris Bright from PESFA, it's just they have their ducks in a row when
Yeah.
it comes to their systematic approach to a fight, and we look to have guys like that fight for versus.
See, I think I first met Canyo about 2 years ago. I was shooting down in PE with Sindile and Lutando. And you could see then he was just this humble, charming, happy guy. But
Yeah.
when in the stand-up, you could see yes, something special about the
Yeah.
kid. And when he first fought Grant, because this is the decider,
Yeah.
I think he kind of I think I admit Canyo gassed against Grant a little bit, but Chris says it was more anxiety
Yeah.
than anything else. So what he was getting used to that big match temperament. And in the second fight, I think he kind of outboxed
Yeah.
Grant.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing, and this is what Versus is all about across this entire card, is proving a platform for a lot of fighters who are starting to show they got something very, very special. And I think Canyo is very special indeed. We'll get on to Grant in a minute.
Yeah.
But that's when I said it's that first fight against Grant, I think it was, Chris says he was more anxious than anything else. And he kind of he dropped the pace in the second and third
Yeah.
round, and that's how he lost. And then you could see his improving technique. But at versus Fight Night 6,
Yeah,
he started to look the real deal. You could see
definitely.
the diamond in the rough there.
Well, definite maturity. You got to see that because I don't even know his past experience, but all I got to see from him coming up was you got to see a mature version of Kanyo,
Yeah.
and I think you see that version of himself fighting for the title. And opposite of him, you have Grant Pharaoh, which has also fought the who's who in that
Yep.
lightweight division. Lightweight at amateur level is possibly one of the toughest weights. And you see that on professional level as well. It's one of the stacked divisions in the world. And Grant Farrer is always up there. He's always in that top three, top five
Yeah.
discussion. And you get to see that in his
Yep.
performances. Super well rounded. And he's been switching. I don't know if he's switched between gyms because I'm not sure.
Well,
Who
he was at Silverback, but he was
yeah,
at Forge with William.
Forge, yeah.
So I'm not sure either.
Yeah,
But two great camps regardless.
definitely. And yeah, now I think he's fighting out of Silverbacks, if I'm not mistaken. And they he is also one of those guys that are very vocal on social media. He
Yeah,
he
yeah,
said
so-
he deserves it, and he does. If you are gonna stick up your hand, you're gonna show us something that we get to work with, and you are ready
yeah.
on 4 to
He's
6 week
he's
notice.
very hard on himself, Grant
Yeah,
Farrow, on social media. He really does, and I like that insight from a
yeah,
fighter's point of view. But when he doesn't do as great, I mean, he's harsh as
yeah,
critic,
yeah.
and he talks about his defeats in the past and what was great. I mean, he's doing some. He's been doing a bit of K1
I saw
kickboxing at
that. Yeah,
77 kilograms, so he's working on his striking.
yeah,
But he's a Carlson Gracie Nogi champ as well.
yeah.
And his grappling, I talk about that reversal from Ignatius, and Como just talks about how everyone's leveling up.
Yeah.
But Grant Farrow's grappling is a thing of beauty.
Yeah, definitely. And you get to see that dynamicness from him as well. So in this, I see two guys that are very good grapplers, but also have very good striking in the back pocket. And it's again going to come down to what playing field, where do they want to take this fight? And that's going to be a very hard one to call. It's a 5 rounder as well. Something
Right.
to consider is, it is a 5 rounder. Are these guys going to pace themselves, or are they going to look for a fast finish? Only time will tell.
It's a cracking fight.
It's a
It
cracking
really,
fight.
really, really is. And it's not the main event of Versus
Yeah.
Fight Night 7.
Yeah.
That is Tapelo against Brandon.
Yeah.
Tapelo Talaga, Tapelo Siabi, I'm not
Yes.
sure. Again, one of those fighters, we're talking about Albacoza. How have you able to find an opponent? Because he's 6-0, I think, Tapelo.
Yeah.
He's run through everyone, coming off 3 first-round finishes, all rear naked chokes.
Yeah.
In fact, 5 of his wins are rear naked. I mean, he's 6-0. He's run through everyone in the division.
Yeah, definitely. His only loss was a split decision loss against Godfrey Nkonazi.
Nkonazi, yeah.
And that was a split decision that I do think was
Massive upset.
It was I don't know what the judges were smoking, to be honest. As a matchmaker, just watching that fight, I think we had an open discussion about who won that
Yeah.
fight. But just seeing him, how he takes wins and losses in his stride, and he's not going to let that phase him. He keeps on proving he's the top of the division, and the flip of the coin is Brandon Santos. Now, when you speak about Kanyo being a guy that is super, I think he's underrated for
Yep.
his skill set.
Yep.
Brandon Santos.
Yep.
Like this man is absolutely insane, and you got to see that in his fight with Tyron Lamprecht.
Yep.
And this is where you get to see most of these guys have fought each other, and they're on the same card once again. So, like I said, the title is not so far out of reach as you think. It's one win, one KO. It's one great performance, and you're up there in the conversation. But Brandon Santos has been absolutely dominant,
Yes.
even in his losses. He lost to Willy van Rooyen before
3-round
that
war.
and you can't see many weaknesses, to be honest. There's not a bright exposure of where he's going to be exposed, because his wrestling defense is amazing.
Yeah.
He's super strong on the ground. His stand-up is obviously world class, and now he's fighting Tapelu, which is making this so exciting. There is a little bit of a thing of like, I think Tapelu in the amateur team is like, he's the big brother. He's
Okay.
probably the shortest out of all of them, but he is definitely the guy that everyone in that amateur team looks up to.
Yeah.
And he's been fighting for either a title or number one contendership for a few
Has he
years
never
now.
sparred with the pro team?
So he's done a few sessions with us. He's on that edge of transitioning
Okay.
into the pro team, but just not there yet, but almost very close. And but he's the big brother of that team. And Brandon Santos came in and he beat Tyron. And there must be some pressure of getting that win back for the team.
Yeah.
And I do think that is where Tapelu thrives. I think he does thrive under immense amount of pressure. I do think he's also one of the best showmen, probably after the Muffin Man.
Yes.
He's probably one of the best showmen for versus.
Yeah.
And having him there as the headline is great, and having Brandon Santos, who's an absolute killer. There's Gila's here behind the camera, and he takes all the photos for the fight. And I go through I go through 2,000 photos easily in a fight night. And there's not one photo where Brandon Santos is not having a straight face.
Oh,
He
really?
has that killer instinct
Yeah,
straight face, and
yeah.
all in everything. And it's absolutely amazing to see just that super focused, super dialed, and we're gonna see that against Tapelo.
I like his style too. I mean,
Amazing.
that Philip Van Rooyen fight. I mean, way Brandon comes into the pocket,
Yeah,
his head movements,
yeah,
absolutely delightful.
amazing.
So, and I don't want Stefan De Rey coming back at me because I would never suggest anyone at CIT can't get it done with the fists.
Yes,
But Tabella does like to take the tap.
yeah.
Brandon likes to come in, put it on with a fist. I'm not going to typify the same old cliche grappler against striker.
Yeah.
How does Tapella's hands look? And do you think he'll be able to deal with the striking of Brandon Santos?
Well, that's the thing. I think Tapelo is so good that I think sometimes Steph can tell him, listen, fight stand up,
Yeah.
win this fight on the feet,
Yeah.
because everyone thinks you're a wrestler. And then he goes out and he does that. That's what he did in the Godfrey fights.
Yes.
They were like, no, like I think they shot maybe once or twice, or there was a scramble, but they went out to prove a point. They were like, people keep on saying we're wrestlers. Let's go out and scrap is what they did. And I think, it's going to come down to how do they approach this fight. The stakes are high. It is an amateur title. He's on his way to transitioning into the pro team. So what do you do? And only time will tell.
That's a cracking fight. I can't call this
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
either way.
That's going to be sick.
And none of this incredible card camp will be possible without some of the great partners that we have at Versus, as well as some new guys coming on board as well. Just give us a bit more information about that, because that sets us up with these stunning partners for 2024 as well.
Definitely. It's been amazing to work with amazing companies, and to see these guys also join us for multiple events have been amazing. 4 a.m. Club and Marcius van Antwerp, he's been absolutely amazing, super supportive. He also boxes at CIT Boxing. He also does those boxing events, those TikTok boxing events, and you can see like he loves the sport, and he wants to almost develop a type of relationship with these guys and our fans and followers, which is absolutely amazing. USN has been a partner for a while, and this helps because we do not get to pay amateur athletes, but we get to give these guys supplementation. We get to give these guys gifts for thanking them for being part of Versus. King Price has been recently a massive add-on to the Versus events, and if you were at their golf day, you would know they always bring a massive vibe. So they're going to be amazing. They'll be in full force there, and you'll get to see the King Price branding on the bums of all the fighters. And so check that ass out. Just to mention a few, Ooster met the Pier, they are a liquor company that have a great shots. They are joining us on this as well.
Awesome.
We've had Envirocycle, we have SIFCon, we have all these amazing brands that have always grand designs that have always been part of the show. And I'm super glad. Elegant Fuel, that Adani is a massive fight fan, and he's looking to further develop the talents in South Africa. And I'm excited for where the future of Versus and South African MMA is going, and we are the tip of that spear.
I'm so excited, not just for this card, but 2024. I mean,
Yeah,
there's some plans behind that we can't talk about
yeah,
just yet. So stay tuned to all the Versus accounts across all social media for the news as it develops, because there are some big news dropping in and around and after Christmas going into 2024. We can't talk about it now, but seriously, folks, it's going to be one heck of a ride next year. Cam,
yeah.
thanks so much, bro.
Thank you so much, guys. Make sure to go check out now because Versus Fight Night 7 is featuring 15 fights, two title fights happening on the 18th of November at the Casa Social de Madeira Club in Pretoria, in Boschkop, Pretoria. So make sure to get your tickets in the link below. It's on all our social accounts, it's in the description, or you can go to www.versusmma.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us and have a kick ass time. Cheers.